Welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Marcia Erickson, and as always, I'm your host for today's conversation. My guest today is Mike Smutz, the owner and operator of QC Roof Doctors in the Quad Cities.
Good morning.
Good morning. We're going to be talking about Mike's business, his journey to ownership, the challenges he's faced, the wins along the way, and get a look into what it's like to build and run a business. So, welcome, Mike.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm great. It's awesome to have you here today. Thanks for taking time out of your busy day. Before we
Very excited.
begin,
Very excited to be on this podcast. Hopefully, I'm not too loud. You let me know if the controls are working good. I'm going to
you,
do my best here to work with
you
you.
sound fantastic. Before we dig in, I'd love for you to give the listeners a quick background on you and tell us a little bit about QC Roof Doctors.
Well, I'm a Quad City native. I've been living here my whole life. Went to Moline High School, Blackhawk College, went to State University at Illinois State, and jumped around a little bit after college and got into the roofing industry in Memphis, Tennessee, and ended up bringing it back up here to the Quad Cities, where I have since been thriving and making myself a name in our industry here.
Awesome. I love it. Why can't we to dig in a little bit? I get the opportunity to talk to owners at every stage of the business. So tell us about yours. For the audience, give us a little context on ownership structure.
I'm a sole owner. I have my
Okay.
business set up as an S corp. I think, as far as how you would want to structure your own, that's going to be, a question for probably your legal and accounting teams.
Yeah.
But for me, it works out great. I have seen other roofers do well with partnerships. That just happens to not be the way mine's structured. But what I lack in actual partners, I make up for with a tremendous team that builds out the wheel of this company.
Love it. Tell me about that. Tell me, how big is your team and what are some important roles on your team?
Well, I mean, you obviously see the first person when you walk in the door is going to be Stacy, and she's answering calls and she's following up with the insurance and she's chasing down money for us and is really, really wonderful person to have at the front of the office. I've got Ashley as my office manager, and she really, really helps us with compliance and auditing when you have, you know, legitimate work comp insurance and you've got to get through these things on a yearly basis. There's a lot of paperwork to go through. So she really keeps us in line. My production coordinator, Josh Hughes, another Moline native, he's been with me the longest, probably 10 years now, a little bit longer than that, and
Wow.
helps really manage all of my labor, manage all of the materials ordering, make sure our quality stays up to par. And I've got a great sales team, which is led by my guy, Justin Morris, who helps inspire everybody, including myself. I was introduced to you by Chris, who is
Yeah.
another one of my office managers and deals heavily with back end contract increases, change orders, invoicing insurance, and making sure that the money flow is there for us as well. So
Yeah.
outside of that, we have a very, very big labor team. That's run by Drew Thompson, who's also been with me for, oh, this has got to be his seventh or eighth year now.
Wow.
And then we have, a rotating staff of about 10 to 12 sales guys every year. And right now, our current team has been with us for about 2 years. So we're very lucky to have a low turnover rate and a high turnover rate industry.
Wow. That's incredible. How do you do that? What do you think is the magic sauce there?
Humility, eating crow, for making sure everybody's voice is heard, and knowing that I'm not always right. I came from the sales side, so it's very easy to put myself in their shoes and understand how, we do a lot of roofs, we do a lot of projects, and it's easy for people to kind of get lost in a number system. But to each homeowner, these jobs are very personal. To each commercial property owner, that's probably their biggest investment. And when we're working on those, it takes a lot of special attention, and sometimes that requires deviation from your standard operating procedures, and you have to make people feel comfortable. So that's what we specialize in: is earning business, keeping business, maintaining relationships, and the homeowner's right until they're wrong. So
You are the expert. I mean, we only do this once every 30 years, right?
there we go.
Um,
That's the idea.
what is your role on a day to day in the business now? I'm sure it's changed over the years.
You know, yeah, year to year and day to day, things can look a little different. But typically, I wake up with the sun and start scrolling through emails. We have a couple of our lead systems that will kick us back web form submissions and other things that are really time sensitive, and they happen to come in after hours a lot. So I try to get caught up on that, make sure my sales team is humming bright and early. Josh is usually texting me at or before the time I'm opening my eyes to let me know how the jobs are going to be panning out for that afternoon. If any areas are going to need special attention. We have a couple guys who run materials for us, but if those guys are stretched thin, say we have work in Iowa City, Dubuque, and Princeton, Illinois, sometimes I've got to pick up a load. And, the job of a good owner is to wear many hats. So sometimes it's just running plywood, but I try to be on the phone calls, try to be on to the emails to make sure that I'm kept up. I talk with Justin in the morning to make sure, again, like the salespeople, they're out there doing what they have to do. Appointments aren't getting missed, especially in this season where you have a lot of rain. Not every phone call is going to be an easy phone call. So I've got to come back out, look at leaks from past clients sometimes, and make sure that everybody's taken care of. Because, like I said, a relationship doesn't stop when the shingling does. We've got to stand behind our product for a long time. So day to day, it looks different.
So you're still working in the business.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Tell me about, so we often work with clients on, what percentage of time are you working in the business versus on? What would you say right now? How much is in and how much is on the business?
You know, Probably about 60-40. We've just had after about 2 years of low storm production in the direct Quad Cities, we've really had a lot between early storms in April
Yeah.
in Milan and Coal Valley, and some of the storms that hit in May here last month in the Pleasant Valley, Bettendorf area have really required me to help assist in the field. But my mind is always, on growth and combating that internal itch for greed and the corporate wheel driving me towards, if I did 500 roofs last year, I need to do 600 this year. So, it's probably 60-40, and that encompasses about 24 hours a day. So it's always going, but
Ah.
it's positive. It keeps me driving myself towards a goal. And no system's perfect. So
Mhm.
I've got a lot to look forward to with the introduction of new technologies in the roofing companies, especially. So
Ah.
um, always something to look into, always something to learn. Um, and I do carve out time to go fishing with my dad. That's what I'm doing this weekend for Father's Day. So hopefully
Oh, that's
everybody
awesome.
can enjoy this weekend and some good weather, because it certainly has been very rainy lately.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you guys have a big footprint. Tell us about that. So you mentioned Iowa City, Peoria. So tell me, where all do you have see clients from?
Typically for residential, we get calls to about 60 miles out. Cedar
Okay.
Rapids has kind of been introduced as a new market. Myself, I don't enjoy driving 90 miles. We're not really set up to do storm chasing. I know that there's a lot of those people in the industry.
Yeah.
Um, but anything within 60 miles is really a comfortable range for us when it comes to the residential side. We travel 4 or 5 miles to do some of our commercial work, or 4 to 5 hours, I'm sorry, to do some
Okay.
commercial work. So we are licensed currently in Illinois, Iowa, and Wisconsin, and
Okay.
that encompasses a lot of driving when it comes to commercial stuff. So even that we try to tailor down.
Yeah. Uh, Later on, I'm going to ask you where you're going from here. So I have lots of questions around that. You brought up warranty work, right? So we often talk about having guarantees in the business. So obviously you stand behind it. What else makes you unique and different from other roofing companies?
Unique and different. Well, geez, I think my logo's fantastic. So no, I'm kidding. Really, I think it's the team mentality and a long-term vision. Roofing can really be a seasonal job, and you see a lot of companies start and fail because there's not planning.
Yeah.
So the very goal here is to be a company that survives me and possibly is handed down to the next of kin, or gosh forbid, private equity comes and forces me to sell out. But that's way down the path here. So we've got a lot of time left ahead of us, and being a part of the community is really what drives my ambition, because we get to be a part of so many little league teams, so many wrestling teams, some of the schools that I went to, we get to give back to. And outside in the hallway, we've got pictures and pictures and pictures and plaques and thank you cards of the people that we've affected that are beyond just roofing. And that's what's really important to me, is that we are from this community and we will continue to be from this community. So,
Yeah. I love that. It's in your name, right?
yep, that's it.
Uh, you alluded to, so you talked a little bit about a lot about your team. Tell us about how would you describe your leadership style?
I since I came from the sales side, I am a bit of a wild card probably. So, I lean to see the best in everybody. I give a lot of chances. Um, I think that giving people room to make mistakes, learn from them, and grow from them is the best. And obviously, you got to draw hard lines in the sand eventually, but giving people that room to grow, giving people that room to be the best of their ability, even if it's not exactly the way I want things run. I'm very open minded towards growth and adaptation. So I'd say being flexible mentally, physically, and ready to change is probably my best attributes when it comes to leadership.
Yeah, it sounds like you surround yourself with some really good people too.
Well, I think everybody's got good qualities, and especially my team. So yeah, I mean, I'd like to say they're handpicked because they are. We've built this
Yeah.
team over time, and everybody has something that they can bring to the table.
Yeah. I love that. You're leaning on them. I can see that, right? You've learned that you can't do everything yourself, which is pretty
Well,
impressive.
I need to be
So,
able to take a week away from time to time and know that the business can run without me. That's pretty important too. So, uh,
100%. That's awesome. Every business owner I talk to is growing through something. It's a new season, a new challenge, a new level in the organization. What's something you guys are growing through right now that's demanding the most of you?
growing through and going through. Watching the industry change from when I started the company in 2012, and the industry was very, very much retail. And there was a steep incline towards insurance work, and we met all of those challenges, I think, in spades. And even back then, it was a difficult task to convince people, you are actually responsible for your deductible. And they were only $500, $1,000 deductibles. Well, all of these people who didn't make claims, especially in 2020, or when some of these bigger hailstorms came through because they were fearful of their rates going up. Well, one thing for sure is they experienced a rate hike, because we all did. The other thing we've now experienced is that deductibles have increased to such a value that it's very um, influential on whether people want to make a claim. And people then try to honestly be mad at the contractor at the cost of their deductibles on their policies. And it has nothing to do with us, because they're private contracts between them and their insurance. So
Yeah.
where we used to see homeowners giving us pushback against $1,000 on an insurance claim situation, we're now seeing pushback in the $4,000 to $5,000 range, which is a much harder feat to overcome. The average person in the Quad Cities simply doesn't have that in their checking account. So being able to get more familiar with financing and helping homeowners overcome these hurdles financially has been something that's a new challenge and growth method for us, because Frankly, the full coverage policies that homeowners used to have are turning out to be less than full coverage when you do all the math. And that's not to say that there aren't good policies out there, but the challenge is in helping these homeowners who seem to be blindsided by an increase in out of pocket responsibility and a decrease in actual coverage. I think the disconnect there is that homeowners have been passively disengaging with insurance because it's mandatory. So you don't get pleasure out of paying that bill every month. So you kind of set it and forget it. And you'll
Mhm.
take it on the chin when you get that yearly 9% increase because you just think that's the cost of doing business. But what they didn't know is that they were also getting an increase in their deductibles.
Yeah.
And now the industry's in turmoil over that. So while it's difficult in Iowa to help homeowners with their insurance claims because we're not public adjusters, so we're not licensed to talk on specifics or policy, I think
Mhm.
it is important to express to homeowners now the importance of advocating for yourself because when you do get your homeowner's policy, your agent's suggesting to you what's going to be best for his commission structure, right? So you need to do some math on what's going to be actually best for your specific coverages. Again, this isn't me telling you who to go with or
Yeah.
any of that because that's a personal choice, but
Yeah.
make sure that it's right for you and expect as these storms get worse and hail's more frequent and tornadoes are getting closer to us every year and lightning strikes are bigger and wind gusts are 80 miles an hour. Is that something that you're covered for? I want homeowners to be protected. And as much as the insurance shouldn't be paying for things that aren't actual damage, they do need to be paying for things that are. So I'd say the biggest challenge right now is the amount of homeowners we're encountering that aren't educated. And I don't
Yeah.
know if it's their job or the insurance agent's job or my job to step in and do a PSA that homeowners got to take care of themselves. So.
Yeah. What so many things in there. What number one, what do homeowners do? So do they choose not to move forward with it? And does it
Afford with it.
impact you? Yeah. Do they so do you come in, you see that they need work done, they look at their deductible and say, I can't afford that, and then do they just not do it?
A lot of times they won't. Yeah, and
Wow.
it's part of the battle is letting homeowners know exactly where they stand. I like everyone to be coming from a point of education and making good decisions for the long term. So yeah, we see a lot of people not being able to do that or afford it on the spot. But there are many great financing options. Of course, we use Green Sky financing. There's a couple other options through our CRM. I do think people get lured into fancy financing options when a lot of times if you have decent credit, you can just ask your bank and probably get a better rate. We are seeing that when I started, the average cost of a roof was $7,800, at least in my company.
Yeah.
And fast forward from 2013 to 2026, the average roof is over $18,000, and I think
Yeah.
nationally is over 20,000. You'll have to fact check me on that,
Yeah.
but so the reality is people are going to have to become um, savvier with how they budget for roofs, savvier
Hmm.
with how they afford the roofs. And I think, looking into financing independently is important because a lot of times credit unions are going to give you a better deal. Um,
Yeah.
and we want homeowners to get the best deal because roofing is not getting cheaper, as I just demonstrated to you with the price
Yeah.
increase over the last decade or so.
Yeah. So this can be scary. Like I said, most homeowners do this once every 30 years, right? What will they experience? So when someone reaches out to you, from the business side, we talk about your sales process, right? But what will they experience when they make that first call?
Well, every house is unique, regardless of if the floor plan is the same. Everybody lives a little bit different. Everybody's maintenance is a little bit different. So I always joke, if it's me on the phone, all my estimates start at $1 million until I get out there and we can work it down.
Mm.
Um, we've got to take into account every type of material that's connecting to the roof, from the fascia to the soffit to the gutters. Are they strapped over the shingles? So it's really important to discover with that client, what is it that they're looking for? What is it that they're experiencing? When you look at a roof, a lot of times it can look like it's in really great shape. That's because your eye's being drawn to the field, and that's going to be 95% of what you see. But 90% of the problems come from the detail areas, right? So you get a lot of clients now with these 30-year or 50-year lifetime shingles. They're calling us with leaks, and they shouldn't have them. But did they go with the cheapest roofer? Do we have to tear out these shingles and find out they didn't use ice and water in the valley, or they didn't flash along the dormers? So we're finding challenges in that regard too.
What? Okay, so that's all very technical, right? Information that you guys have because you're the experts. So if I call you and I'm a potential client, what am I going to experience? Who am I going to talk to? What are you going to ask me? What is that process? Because that can be scary.
Yeah, so just like I said, we want to discover what's important to the homeowner. Typically, you're going to probably deal with Stacy, and she's got a lot of Southern charm. She's originally from Arkansas, so I think she's very pleasant to talk to. And she's going to take her time, get your name, get your email, etc. Where do you live? And then what is your problem? We want to know that, because if we just come out and look, we may never see what's bothering you. So is
Yeah.
it that your gutters are falling off from the last windstorm? Did you have fascia blow off? There's so many different exterior issues they could be experiencing. Typically, it's that something that's very visible, right? So it's going to be,
Yeah.
my gutters blew off, or I walked out of my front door and there was shingles in my front yard. A lot of times it's, I'm sitting in my lazy boy and there's now water, dripping on my head while I'm watching Wheel of Fortune. And the
Yikes.
typical thing is that some of these houses have products that are past their lifetime. So,
Yeah.
what we want to do is collect the information that's important to the homeowner, so we know exactly where we should start our investigation, inspect thoroughly, and give them several options towards a road forward.
Awesome. Do you guys tell me about the insurance piece? Does the customer work with their insurance company, or do you guys step in and help with that?
We want to be as helpful as we can be to homeowners. In Illinois, we can be a little more helpful. In Iowa, we're not allowed to interject into the claims process. We're not public adjusters. I don't have a license for that. We are allowed to denote what we think is damage. We're allowed to advise homeowners what we think their roof requires to move forward. And in many cases, that's just an estimate. Um, we will do everything we can to advocate for homeowners. And again, like I said, I try to educate people beforehand, so that they're making the right decision for themselves. But the laws in Iowa have the hands tied for homeowners and contractors to work together when it comes to storm damages. So, a lot of times it's important to just get a good inspection, which we will provide to people for free. We will forward all of our
Okay.
pictures. That way you can come up with your own informed decision and whether or not filing that claim is right for you to do. Um, After that, we're happy to help move the process forward, review paperwork when it comes in, and tell you whether or not we can do the project as such.
Okay. Excellent. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the ins and outs of the business. Where do you go from here? So let's fast forward. Where do you see the business in the next 3 to 5 years?
Robotic shingling arms, of
Mm.
course. No, I don't know. I think there's a couple of those out. I'm not ready
Okay.
to replace my guys quite yet. I don't think the technology's caught up, but I do think the speed at which we'll be able to get homeowners' estimates back will increase, which is already pretty fast. Um, the integration of our CRMs between the computers and Chris and Ashley, and all of our sales guys, that communication speed increases. The ability to get homeowners financed in a quick period of time, as that increases into our mix. But in 5 years, I see a lot of repeat customers for the first time because I'm going to be turning a leaf into 18, 20 years into business. And that's when
Yeah.
a lot of these roofs start having to be replaced organically. So that's something I'm looking forward to on the longevity side is customers that I knew when I first started. Um,
Yeah.
but I think that there'll be a lot of the same in 5 years. I think in 10 years, we start looking towards a lot of more technological things that are beyond my mental comprehension. But the sales guys will still be there. I think the marketing techniques are vastly changing. When the hailstorms were really popular to door knock and chase these storms, I think homeowners get burnt out just like anybody else does when you're overexposed. And so between social media being in your face and Google ads being in your face, and every time you're on YouTube, there's an ad, we're a part of that mix as well. So
Yeah.
trying to evolve with what homeowners, what commercial property owners are going to be receptive with, right? Because I still have to advertise. I still have to be at top of
Yeah.
mind. But you don't want to be at top of mind because you're annoying. You want to be there because you're the right choice. So I think that will be the biggest challenge in that time frame is maintaining visibility and reputation and accessibility as the marketing game becomes more automated, as people incorporate AI, as
Yeah.
it used to take time for my ad copies to come back when I was working with, Valpak or other local mailing companies.
Yeah.
You would give them an idea and you'd get sketches back. And then
Yeah.
it would, be PowerPoints or, PDFs, and it would take time. I can plug into my Gemini and create an ad in seconds now. So um, that's going to be a very, very cool revolution is the ad industry, the marketing aspect, and
Yeah.
and how do I keep my current position? How do I expand my current position? Um, and I think everybody in my industry and everybody in every industry is feeling that.
Yeah. I don't want to leave. Where do you want to go with the business? But I do want to come back to marketing. We're going to have a conversation around marketing. Um, what in 5 years, so we talk a lot about it from a business owner perspective. Business should give you life, right? You did this for a reason. You got into business on your own for a reason. What do you want in 5 years? What's going to make you grin ear to ear when you sit back and look at the business itself? What do you want? What do you
I'm
want
going
it
to
to
touch
be for
back to what
yourself?
I said. As my company rolls over from the first generation of clients and I
Mm,
start getting that natural callback,
yeah.
if those numbers are high, then that means I did a good job when I started. So I think seeing return clients really, really makes me happy. And of course, we get that as is. There's not a lot of people that live in their house for 20 or 30 years anymore,
Right.
regardless of 50 years. I believe the national statistics are somewhere around six or seven, six, seven,
Yeah.
as far as
Nicely
people
done.
changing their homes.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't realize the benefit of the roof that they're even putting on. But hopefully that is something that I get to see is a return of clients as
Yeah.
my business crosses that 1 decade to 2 decade threshold. Because honestly, I really love what I do. It gives me a lot of purpose to be a part of the Quad Cities, to drive around and, as lame as it sounds, I get to point to my fiance and my kids and go, I did that roof or I did that roof. And, those little
Yeah.
dopamine hits count for everything some days.
Yeah. I love it. Let's go back to marketing. So you hit upon a lot of things. What is working for you now? What's your most, if you were to pick 3 to 5 marketing strategies that you love the best, what are some things that you want to try? What are some things that maybe didn't work?
Um, I don't think that there's a way to say anything doesn't work. I think things scale differently, just like businesses. Um, Advertisement is a risk because it's exposure. So is it long term? Is it instant? There's so many different models, right? But If you do an ad mailer like Valpak, like I mentioned, and you only do it one time, your return's going to be very minimal.
Right.
So sometimes there's a threshold you have to go over before you start seeing that return. Um, and those faith-based investments can be very hard, especially for a company that maybe doesn't have the cash flow to sustain that. You look at things like billboards. I've got a meeting next week set up. Some of my biggest competitors locally have a lot of billboards. I'm not going to say their name, but that is a significant monthly investment between two, three, $4,000 a month
Yeah.
per spot, and it's very, very hard to tell exactly who's calling because of that. So I guess we can circle back to one of the things you can expect when you call is,
Yeah.
especially myself and Stacy, is how did you get a hold of the roof doctors today? Was it a referral? Did you find me on Google? Sometimes I kind of lead them, but if you're going to spend $4 or $5,000 a month on a billboard, and then you have two, three, four, five of those, you
Yeah.
really want to know if people are calling because of it.
Yeah.
Um,
So
it's
what's the
easy.
answer to that question? What do you learn? What have you learned? Where does most of your business come from?
Wow, I think it's very diversified, and I've done a good job of being able to fill the funnel, as you say,
Uh-huh.
from multiple sources. So the fact that we have such a high Google rating was something I invested in early, and a lot of that is through just doing the good work and asking the homeowners for a review,
Yeah.
because that's something you can do for free.
Yeah.
And now that drags my organic listings up.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple other companies who have invested in that strategy, and the investment there is mostly in time. Of course, you've got to do some good work to get a 5-star review, so don't go
Yeah.
asking people you didn't make happy. Um, but I think that there's organic things that can drive you up. Of course, we invest in yard signs. So when you're doing the build,
Yeah.
that day, it's very important to be on your job site, waving at the homeowners. I coach that over and over with my project managers. The visibility is key.
Yeah.
That way, if they want to come out, somebody's there that can be approachable and walk them through the process. Selling on site
Yeah.
is awesome. I touched again on door knocking. People don't like it. People think, oh, this and that. Door knocking is very important. It is. You have
It
to canvas,
works.
you have to market yourself. Um, and convincing the sales guys to do that takes a lot of effort too. So the return on the investment for door knocking is the highest because it doesn't cost anything other than a tank of gas and a little ambition.
Yeah.
We do a lot of pay per click leads. We have a Google local service ads. I'm not going to tell you who I use because my guy's so good. But we get a dashboard and we can see how many calls come in from Google. And then that's got an algorithm that's based on how quickly we respond. Did we answer? Did we record their information? That stuff is a little bit annoying, but that we can clearly track as well.
Mhm.
So that one's very easy to be pleased with or no. Did we have a poor month last month? Do we need to up our budget?
Yeah.
Um, versus things like the billboard, which is kind of, I hope it's working. I hope it's working. But it is important to be visible and passively. So even on right outside of my office here on Harrison Street, we've got a great sign. My buddy Brian at Printing Plus, he put
Yeah.
up for us. Shout out. He's going to take me fishing in the Ozarks. I know it any day now. But people drive by and we get a lot of calls that say that too. You guys are the on Harrison Street, right? And yes, we are. A couple years ago, the NIL deals came out, and I was really quick to snag up a couple local players from Moline basketball's team. We were able to put them in some commercials. I negotiated a spot at Wharton Fieldhouse, which is a very historic um, field house in Moline that they played
Yeah.
basketball at. The ABA used to play there. The Globetrotters used to play there. And coincidentally, now my commercials play there. So, it's been a lot of fun. That's another thing that's kind of hard to track. So we had a trigger on that. If you see our commercial and you asked for a card uh, referencing that commercial, we had a giveaway.
Yeah.
And we got a lot of calls for that. So I think that when you are marketing, it has to be a comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
What they say is true about putting all your eggs in one basket. Well, it can be fruitful and it also can be detrimental. So, um, whether or not you have a large budget or a small budget, figuring out how to segment that pie is going to be very important.
Love it. That was awesome. That was a great marketing lesson. You ready for some rapid fire questions?
Let's go.
What's the key to success for you?
Um, Being approachable, being amendable, and being active. Uh, AAA spirit. I just want people to see me smile, and usually that's infectious enough to cure any problem.
Oh my gosh, that was so good. Give me those again. Approachable?
Approachable, amendable, and active.
Wow, I love it. That's awesome. That's going to be a fun soundbite. What's one piece of advice you have for other business owners?
If you own a commercial property, you should probably call me for a free roof inspection. We're authorized Carlisle installers. No, you should do that, but
Yeah.
also, stick through it. Mentally, there's the ups and the downs, but you believed in yourself enough to start. You got to believe enough in yourself to continue, right? And I'm sure that everyone had a goal. Let that goal evolve, right? But keep it something you can chase.
Beautiful. Beautiful. What's a book you're reading or a podcast you're listening to right now?
I listen to a lot of comedy when I'm on the road, so that's probably not, really family friendly type of stuff. But I'm currently reading a book I loaned from a mentor fisherman of mine in Wisconsin called The Habits of Rivers, and
Ooh.
it waxes poetically about fly fishing for trout. So it's not a really technical read, but makes me long for nice days on the river.
Yeah. I love it. Business feeds your life, right?
That's it.
Beautiful. Okay, here's a fun question. If you had a little bit of magic dust and you can sprinkle it on one part of the business, what would it be? Where would that magic dust go?
I would probably change all my F-150s into hybrid Ford Mavericks so that I could get 35 miles a gallon instead of like 12 to 13 because man, those gas prices are outstanding right now. Um, but outside of that, I think really being equitable with it. Everybody's always got room for improvement. But I'm very lucky to say that nobody here needs to improve drastically. So just a pinch here or there, and we're going to be in good shape.
I love it. Good answer. Okay, before our final question, how can people find QC Roof Doctors?
Well, if you start by Googling roof doctors or QC roof doctors, you should come across my landing page there. You should be able to see a whole ton of reviews, and I hope you read them. We do a good job of being available at all times, even for emergency situations. So when that tree falls into your kitchen, or that hail hits, or your skylight's leaking, we want to be that first call so we can get out there, we can tarp it, or we can help you take that next step. When your roof is just old and it's ready, we can give you an estimate that's very fair, very quickly. You can call us at the office, 563-888-8967. You're going to talk to Stacy. You're going to love talking to Stacy. She's going to assign you to one of our project managers, and we're going to get right out there. Um, Other than that, come by the office. We've got a great little showroom, and we got a snack bin too. So 1313 North Harrison Street, and we'll see you here.
Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't realize you had a showroom. This was a great conversation. This was really, really good. Thank you so
Thanks.
much for your story. To everyone watching, save this show, come back and watch it. Great tidbits in here. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you get notified every time we drop an episode.
Yeah, like my Instagram page, like my Facebook page,
Yes,
all the stuff influencers are supposed to do. Click down here. There's the number, whatever. Have a good
all
one.
the things. Mike, you're awesome. Clearly a sales guy at heart. Thanks for being with us today. We appreciate it. And everybody check out Mike and QC Roof Doctors.
We'll talk soon.